These are not my words, but the words of every single one here, standing here, after 459 days of the most well documented and first live streamed genocide in history. You've seen us killed in every possible way. We've been immolated, incinerated, dismembered, and disemboweled. And recently, we've been freezing to death. What more ways should you be seeing us killed in so that you can move and act and stop the hell inflicted upon us? Our message is very clear. We are journalists, and we are Palestinian journalists. We have been let down by the international community, particularly the international media organizations. We haven't seen any sort of support, a single word of support. Even the press vests we're wearing right now mark us as a target. They do not protect us at all. But yes, because we are Palestinians, maybe if we were Ukrainians or of any other citizenship with blonde hair and blue eyes, the word would rage and rant for us. But because we are Palestinians, we have only one right, which is to die and be maimed.
I'm now joined by the journalist you just saw in that video, Abubaker Abed, a Palestinian reporter based in Gaza. Abubaker, thank you so much for joining me on the Empire Files. It's such a huge honor to talk to you.
You're so welcome. I'm so pleased to talk to you, and this really means to me so much. So, yeah, I'm really pleased, and it's very, very nice to talk to you today.
You've been working incredibly hard. I'm so proud of your work. I've been following you very closely. I mean, I guess let's first just talk about the announcement from Donald Trump to ethnically cleanse Gaza, talking about how Gaza is hell, how it's a demolition site, next to the grinning genocide fugitive who oversaw the destruction.
It's really insane, like after 14 months of brutal genocide, you see someone coming to ethnically cleanse you. So I haven't got the rest. People here haven't got the comfort to forget about the past 14 months. And then Trump is coming to take them out of Gaza. This is just nonsense. It's absolutely infuriating and enraging for Palestinians here. But again, we say it and we will keep saying it. If the rockets and the bombs did not work out to clean out Gaza, Trump's words would not, because the rockets and bombs, of course, stronger than what Trump is saying. So let him do whatever he wants. If he wants to kill the 2.3 million Palestinians trapped here, let him do it if he can do that, because we are here very much rooted, Abbey, and no one can really beat us. I can tell you that the Palestinian people, the spine they have shown over the course of the past 15 months is indescribable, is unmatched, and you cannot really defeat such a people with such unity and steadfastness and resilience. They have endured, we need to remind people that we have endured starvation, we have endured freezing temperatures, we have endured relentless bombings, and all types of weapons of war have been inflicted upon us, but we did not surrender. So Trump's just a few words coming out from Trump's mouth, and I'm going to change the situation because people are rebuilding. You can see, like since this ceasefire took effect, we need look at people. We looked at people, and we're still looking at people. People are clearing up rubble. They are rebuilding what was devastated in their neighborhoods and their places, and they are restarting their lives. We, as Palestinians, love life. We teach life. So Trump is not going to do that kind of stuff, that kind of nonsense stuff, just tearing Gaza and take out 2.3 million people. It's insane. We know that Gaza is devastated. We know that everyone here is dejected. We understand that. But at the same time, he has to know that there is a full young generation in the territory that cannot be beaten. And when we talk about this generation, we talk about my generation and the younger generations. Those ones, those people, young men, are very determined to stay here, and not until Gaza stays. No, until the last piece of land in the occupied Palestinian territories is free. You have people who are very indigenous to this land who have sacrificed their lives every single day during the last 14 months. And not only that, by the way, because we've lived through previous wars, we were absolutely bleeding every single day during the last 17 years when the highly strict siege on Gaza was imposed by Israel back in 2006. We've been occupied, we've been subjugated, we've been absolutely suffocated, but we resist, we rebuilt Gaza, and every time a war happened and the destruction was absolutely emerging inside every single inch of the territory, we really stuck together, we really rebuilt Gaza. So whatever you do to Gaza, Gaza is going to stand on its feet again.
Palestinians are indigenous to the land. It's an ancestral land. Your blood, sweat, and tears are in that land. And there's so much suffering and resilience and hope and love. And that doesn't just go away. You don't just remove people from that land. It speaks volumes. I mean, to hear just open calls for colonization and conquest from the world's empire. I mean, just brazen, unabashed in the year 2025. I just can't believe my ears. It really is hallucinatory to see Trump standing side by side with this maniac, this genocidal maniac, and just everyone just placating him. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I mean, as a Palestinian, I can't even imagine how enraging it is to hear such a thing.
Absolutely. Look, whatever he's going to do is not going to work at all. People here are very united. They love it. They love this land. People are saying that, look, if Trump wants to take us out, can we really have Americans out of the United States? If the Americans are going to be out of the United States, we will think about this step by Trump. Now, this is the equation. Really? Like, people have to
Yeah,
know
right.
we're not subhumans. You have to talk to us. We decide our future. We decide what we want to be and who we want to be. And we decide what Gaza should be like in the future. No one can do that. We have the right to resist. We have the right to live. We have the right to enjoy every human right. Because, Abby, over the past 20 months in particular, we've been asking all the international humanitarian organizations, all the human rights associations, and the international laws, all of them, sick joke, nothing has paid off at all. All of them. So do not tell me that the international law will secure my right to return to my occupied Palestinian territories. Israel had the chance to go with peace, to go for peace with Palestine many times during the last years. But Israel refused it because Israel is a colonial project. It's a colonial state. It's not a state, it's a colony. And it's a terrorist state. It is. But people are trying to make sure that Israel's image is not distorted. And that is adding to people's suffering here. We have the right to resist. We have the right to armed resistance as well. You cannot really tell me that you shouldn't have the right to resist. One of the things that really infuriates me all the time is that the West, most of the West, Abby, is going to talk about Palestinian suffering. That, okay, we sympathize with you. But if you don't want to sympathize with me in terms of the armed resistance, your sympathy is fake. It's as simple as that. Because you are not trying to secure my right to return to my occupied Palestinian territories. You in the West have the right to go anywhere across the globe. Here, I cannot really set foot outside Gaza. This is the pinnacle of dehumanization. And that's what I've been through not only during the last 14 months, but more than that, for years, for many years. That is beyond heartbreaking. That is beyond the person. But people are not aware of that. A genocide was not needed to tell the world that Gaza has been the most marginalized spot in the world. A genocide was not needed. 60,000 people shouldn't have been killed to tell the people that Gaza has been marginalized. More than 110,000 people, and we're seeing now horrors of the most incredibly atrocious version and type. We're still revealing more horrors at the moment beneath the rubble of people's houses. We're still revealing horrors in the graveyards. Many bodies. I've been here, and I'm now in the Shajai neighborhood in Gaza City. There's a graveyard nearby. In the graveyard, many corpses have been stolen. There is a grave, but there is not a corpse inside. There's not a body inside. Israel has been stealing and smuggling people's bodies for a very long time. This is Israel's history. No one, zero mention in this story in the Western media. But if it were an Israeli body, look how the Western media would erupt. Look how they would react. This is insane. These are the double standards. Don't tell me that 1.1 million children, which constitutes half of the population here in Gaza, are Hamas. Don't tell me that the young men are Hamas. Hamas has never come to a man or a person in Gaza to tell him, to oblige him to join the military. Israel does this with everyone who sees
Good point.
oh, in Israel. Israel does this, but no one is talking about that. Everyone is Hamas. Everyone who's killed is Hamas. That's how they are framing it. That's how they are justifying and giving consent for the Israelis to continue the genocide.
It is a complete inversion of reality, and I think that's what's so deeply frustrating is the just dehumanization. I mean, is just such extreme levels of dehumanization. I mean, can you imagine if people were just casually talking about expelling all of Israelis? I mean, all of Israel. Just unbelievable how casually this is floated, taken over 1 million people, and just in neighboring countries, just absorb refugees as if, like you said, people would rather fight and die in this land than to just
Absolutely.
be used as pawns for some geopolitical colonial chessboard.
Yeah, of course.
It's
Again,
sick,
death
Abubaker.
here, yeah, death here is much, much nicer. You will die here. And believe me, Palestine is our heart. There's no difference at all. Not really leaving. Again, I'll say it again. I had the chance multiple times during the war to leave, but it did not, and it will not, because Palestine needs me. I will die for it. I will die for the moment, even if I will not see free Palestine. The next generations, I will die for the next generations to see a free Palestine, because we are the rightful owners of this land. We have the right to go back to our land.
Obviously, there was a huge celebratory mood after the ceasefire. It was incredible to see you smiling, beaming ear to ear. I mean, see so many people full of love and optimism, reuniting with long lost loved ones after 15 months of grueling genocide. How is it going right now? I know that you just trekked several miles across Gaza. You saw some pretty devastating things. I mean, talk about what you saw and kind of the general sentiment right now.
Well, the sentiment, as I told you, people are still hopeful. They're determined to rebuild, to reconstruct what was devastated. They really want to do so. And again, for me, as I'm saying, what the mood is, people have to know that our wounds have not yet healed. People have to know that. We still have tragedies. And for me personally, I lost my entire aunt's family. I lost my very dearest friend. I haven't seen his grave yet. So we still have time to really recognize what has happened to us, realize what has happened to us during the last 14 months. And not only this, just we're trying to see when I really got into Gaza and set foot on its soil, I was absolutely appalled from the very first square meter. Everything on the right side and the left side, straight forward, everything was hit by the Israeli army, by the Israeli forces. Nothing escaped Israeli attacks. Just total destruction. When I first just started walking, an idea or the emotion of nostalgia was really evoked because I remember the street very, very well. And I know how it was brimming with joy, beauty, and plunger and people's happiness and smiles. But now it's just total destruction. And even there are many military checkpoints. Now, when I was walking, like there's the mosque here. Where is it? It's simply vanished. There are 6 cafes here. Where are them? They simply disappeared. And now everything on the right side along the street, I've been walking around 16 kilometers. I've seen at least every building, without any exaggeration, every building on the streets and every building around just flattened. And this is absolutely heartbreaking. But all of this is just a part of the story. When I got into Jabalia, that was absolutely, I don't have the words to tell you what it was like, because literally, every building inside Jabalia is leveled to the ground. Just piles of rubble, just jumbles of people's ripped apart, ripped clothes, belongings, nothing. Just here is a pile, here is a jumble of rubble, here is a pile, there is a pile, a pile. I stood up on a mountain of rubble, of course, and of sand, and I just had a look, an aerial look, quite an aerial look, and all of Jabalia is leveled to the ground. All of it is annihilated. But people are living amid the rubble. I was talking to people and they told me, look, if you bring an animal anywhere around the world, from anywhere around the world, and come here and bring it here, this animal would not accept this kind of conditions at all. And of course, this is how it is. Has anyone, any of the journalists in the Western media, really said a word about the devastation and the carnage in Gaza? No. This is this kind of narrative is giving Israel the power to continue and go ahead with its genocidal campaign. And this is what Gaza is looking at. But just still one more time again, whatever you do to Gaza, Gazans will rise from the rubble, from under the rubble even. And you do have to believe that, because that's what how we've been, and that's what we've been doing for the past years, not only the first year and the second year. Mothers, fathers, and everyone is united to rebuild Gaza and to make Gaza bloom one more time again. We have the flowers, we have the roses, we will continue to hope we emerge from this with hope. And as long as we hope and we smile, we are much, much, much stronger than a few weapons that haven't really paid off and done anything to an entire population who have defied all the odds.
It is just so crazy, though. I mean, for you as such a young man to have already lived through several wars, several offensives, of what Israel calls mowing the lawn every couple of years. I mean, to be trapped, not have the freedom of mobility. You've never left Gaza. And, like you said, I mean, before October 7th, it was already totally uninhabitable. No clean water. I mean, a lack of electricity. Not even an animal should live in these conditions. And it's just an absolute disgrace that the media has been complicit in this genocide, and they should be held accountable. You were telling me before we started this interview, I complimented the painting on the wall behind you, and I said how beautiful it was. And you told me that if you were to turn the camera around, you would see absolute carnage, that this is simply part of the wreckage of a home.
Yeah, and this is not only this place, it's everywhere, because people really didn't have solutions to cope with the current situation and this scale of carnage. So they have to take shelter in almost collapsing and fragile buildings. They don't have any other choices. Where people are killing, I've just seen the same scenario again. People have come from the south of the Strip, but the Israeli military told them or ordered them to leave for safety. And of course, it wasn't safe at all, because all of this, like the humanitarian safe zone, was absolutely nonsense. And the humanitarian safe zone even so many thousands of casualties over the course of the genocide. Now, people, when they return home, they have nowhere to go at all. I remember very well, like yesterday, I really met I think a 10-year-old girl, and she was roaming around the graveyard here, and she told me my dad was killed, and I don't know. She doesn't have clothes, she doesn't have food, she doesn't have any sort of life means at all, and she just walks in the streets without any protection. But she has that smile. She has only one piece of clothing over her body, and it's very cold here. I'm wearing around like 4 pieces of clothing, and it's not enough, to be honest. I'm still shivering with cold. So look, for children, how it really is. Most of the children have been orphaned during this war, and not, like, in addition to that, people are still stranded in tents. So they are still stranded and trapped in the same bubble of horror, the same bubble of displacement and suffering without any reduction at all. People are still searching for their loved ones. They are using the simple devices, the bare hands to search what has been left under the rubble of their houses. Nothing has been. The scenes here are absolutely depressing, disheartening. When you really come into Gaza and see this scale of destruction everywhere, you cannot really fathom the pain. You cannot really uh, take or process what you see, and it's just incredibly graphic annihilation of every means of life, all life aspects. The streets destroyed, homes destroyed, towers, cafes, restaurants, schools, medical facilities, hospitals, everything has been hit by the Israeli military. Nothing was spared, nothing at all. And
No, and it
they,
was intentional. I mean, that's what's so crazy. It was intentional. It
yeah,
was intentional destruction of the best and brightest, the entire infrastructure, the medical infrastructure, the educational infrastructure. I mean, everything. Abu Bakr. I mean, the journalists. I mean, the bravery and resilience of Palestinian journalists such as yourself to go out there day after day, like you said, wearing a press jacket that marks you potentially for assassination from the state and the babies, like you said, I mean, babies freezing to death. I mean, the US went to war based on manufactured propaganda of Saddam's forces throwing babies out of incubators. That's happening. That actually happened. I mean, all of this is just unbelievable. It's unfathomable that humanity could be capable of this. I cannot wrap my mind around it. And the fact that you're living it, you are living it. Um, I apologize on behalf of humanity. I mean, talk about the ceasefire and how Israel has been violating it because we know that they've never adhered to any brokered ceasefire resolution ever. And look at what they're doing in the West Bank. I mean, none of this can be uncoupled. They're leveling Jenin. They've just destroyed entire residential blocks, and they're saying that there's Hamas fighters there. It's just unbelievable. I mean, you've spoken to me about the need for unity, and I think that that's something that's really remarkable too. Is the unity, despite the kind of political partisanship or political parties and divides, there's still this kind of incredible united front of Palestinians across the board, no matter where you are.
Israel has killed around 100 people in Gaza, Abby, since the ceasefire took effect. And they have really been firing relentlessly in people's houses. There are still thousands of people who cannot really go back to their houses, particularly near the border regions, where we talk about the Nazarene corridor and Philadelphia corridor. A lot of people in Rafah have were obliged and were forced to flee their houses again. And of course, there are no houses, just piles of rubble because Rafah has been turned into a city of ghosts for people. So it's a wasteland, as is everywhere inside Gaza. Now, for Israel, they are still located in the central parts of Rafah, in the central parts of northern Gaza and Beit Lahiya and Beit Hanun, and they are still stationed around the Nazarene corridor. Yesterday, a man was sniped in the chest and he was killed by Israeli snipers around the Nazarene corridor. He was heading back home here to the north of the strip after almost 2 weeks, but he was killed. And yes, it's okay. We killed the Palestinian. We've already killed like around 60,000 Palestinians, and just the Gaza Health Ministry is now aware because of the lack of tools, the lack of sources to really retrieve bodies from under the rubble. They are now aware that more than 14,000 bodies are still under the rubble and they need to be recovered as fast as possible. People want to see just one thing, one body part of their loved ones to find it, to inspect it, anything. Just you want to know whether or not their loved ones are alive. But it's just like Israel is keeping violating the ceasefire. I really, from the last two phase, I didn't see one good night because Israeli drones are still buzzing overhead every single day, and even warplanes are also intensely hovering over our heads every single night. So, what is the ceasefires they say when you have that sort of terror yet one more time again, and you're still terrorized, and you cannot really recover from the trauma that you have been through over the past 14 months. I need to grieve my losses. Give me the time. Give me the time to rebuild. Give me the time to really mourn and honor the death of my loved ones, my family members. Give the time to every single one here in Gaza. 2.3 million Palestinians. Everyone has a tragedy to tell. Everyone has a story, a tragic story to narrate. Give them the chance. Platform them. Don't platform an Israeli. Don't platform is the Israelis who have been living very peacefully and in the best way during the last 14 months. But you come and say again, you see Sky News, it was horrific 14 months for both sides, Israelis and the Palestinians. Joe Biden, there were big losses on both sides. Absolutely nonsense. Absolutely enraging. If the Western media really did their job and really did their work, this would be really ended very, very much earlier. And all of these deaths could have been escaped. Again, we go back to the same book. The BBC, the CNN, the New York Times, all of them are just working and bootlicking the Israelis' narrative and the Israelis. So this is what they do. But come and see Palestinians, they do not have any importance at all. The world is not talking to us, Abby. The world is talking about us as if we are really a burden for them. You're talking about more than 5,000 children have been amputated, that have been amputated during the war. What threat, what kind of threat did they pose to the Israeli military? What kind of a threat? What kind of a threat that man yesterday, just probably around 30 years old, what kind of threat did he pose when he was unarmed and was going back home? Why did you shoot him? Like, why? Why did you destroy all the hospitals? There is no justification for these heinous war crimes at all. But no one is talking about this. This is not ethnic cleansing for people. Trump is declaring ethnic cleansing for Gaza, but for Western media, it's not ethnic cleansing. It's just resettlement, and they are just cheap parrots regurgitating what Israel is saying without giving any evidence. They don't have the means of humanity at all.
Well, we saw when CNN embedded themselves with the Israeli military, embarrassingly repeating their script, getting that calendar wrong, saying that an Arabic calendar was a hostage schedule. I mean, it's just absolutely insane when you really look at the level of infiltration actually from Israeli spies, from former IDF troops, I mean, who are embedded in the Western press. It's absolutely cartoonish. And thank God we have people like you. I'm so thankful for Palestinian journalists being able to dictate the reality for us because people have no excuse. We see the war crimes being committed daily. It's absolutely unbelievable. I've never seen anything like this. I mean, it seems like Israelis are just using this giant open air prison as just target practice and killing Palestinians for sport because it's just so inexcusable and incomprehensible the level and scale of atrocities. So, like you said, I mean, it's grief upon grief. The wounds are raw. It's going to take decades. It's a generational struggle to just recover from all of the trauma. And I mean, is there any parting words that you would like to leave us with, and anything that you think people should know? Because I think at this point, the general consensus is, oh, the war is over. The aid trucks are getting in, and Gaza's, all of the phases are going to be followed through, and they can just pay attention to other things. But I think we know that that's not the case.
It's not the case. We don't need aid. We don't need humanitarian aid. We don't need food. We need our lands to be back. We need Palestine to be free. But we will not rest until every single piece of land, as I said, is free from this occupation. And the Israelis are going to be not a threat to Palestine, but it are going to be a threat to the entire world. But I'm really hopeful that the younger generations in the West that have been taught about the Palestinian cause and the corruption of their leaders. So this is going to make a huge difference to the composition of the world. And again, I know it's inconceivable. I know it's insurmountable what is happening to us, but we will never surrender. Just people have to know that the case has never been about how people are living, because before the war, we were even struggling for food, for water. The unemployment rates were exceptionally high, and people did not have the ability to study, did not have the ability to go around Gaza and have the means to live. They were even living in uninhabitable shelters even before the war in Gaza. And now their struggle has just been extended, and people's suffering continues and continues and continues. So it's not just about the trucks. It's not just about the humanitarian aid. It's not just about that the war is over. Look at the post-war war. So it's just the post-war war. Now is the war. How people are going to cope with the situation. But for us, again, Palestine is a heart, will never leave. Okay, I'm gonna die for it. You are gonna die for it. But again, we want to see Palestine free. That we will be united. We really unify ourselves, our effort to bring Palestine to its previous status and to what it was before 1948. And this episode of horror, of displacement, of pain, of anguish, of agony that has been for more than 78 years since 1948 will end very soon. We are the holders of hope, of beauty. The people of beauty, the people of hope are going to live on.
Eternal solidarity and love for you, Abubaker Abed. Thank you so much for your work, for your strength. You're a huge inspiration to me, and I'm honored to call you my friend. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this, and keep up the amazing work.
You're so welcome. It was so lovely to talk to you.